with your tweet to have all the schools send in the shoes and the shirts, where did that idea come from?
Yeah, well, last Monday was a hard day for all Houstonians. I spent the entire day going out my front door, looking to the right in our neighborhood because the water was coming up fast. I think that was the day where we're getting 5 inches an hour, and the bayous and levees obviously couldn't handle it. But I was also watching the local news. You know, most national people watch either the Weather Channel or CNN. But if you're here, you stay glued to Channel 2, Channel 11, or 2, 9, 11, or 13. And I was just flipping back because I wanted to see, you find out what red and yellow is on that radar. If I didn't know before, I do now. But there was one particular instance that really, I guess, touched my heart. There was a boat in a neighborhood, and the whatever channel it was, it might have been Channel 2, but they were tracking the boat, and I started just watching it, and the camera panned over to a lady. She couldn't have been much over 5 foot tall, but she had a little boy that she kept readjusting on her hip. And that was Monday the 28th. That was also supposed to be the first day of school. And the reporter, after she filed the story, was coming back, and she kept talking about the lady with the little boy. And it said the only thing they have left in this world is the clothes on their back. Well, the whole day I was getting texts from coaches all around the country. Just, you know, they were watching it, and you know, some of the images were horrific. You know, with all the flooding and houses being just torn down, literally off their foundations. But I've got great idea guys on our staff. I'm not smart enough to come up with most stuff, but I knew we had to do something to help, so I called my son Kelvin. I was like, Kelvin, we got to come up with something that can, we got to help these people. Well, I'm sitting at my kitchen table at this time, and I started just writing on the back of an envelope, just making notes. So we came up with the idea that let's challenge every coach, every college coach. And I initially sent it out to college basketball coaches, Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, junior college. And I thought we'd get great local response, especially from Louisiana and Texas and Oklahoma because of Hurricane Katrina. But we challenged each coach to send us 20 t-shirts and 10 pair of shoes. And I knew that most of them could do that because everybody, you know, you're coming off basketball camp, you've got leftover shirts that they're brand new, and you know, a lot of them have dates on them. You're not going to use them the next year. So I knew they could do that. 10 pair of shoes, I thought some could, maybe some could not, but they sent what they could. And then after we sent I called my daughter Lauren, who's in charge of social media. She does all of our graphic designs, and I said, put together a tweet, and I'm gonna type it and send it to you. So I sent it to her, and I guess it was 2 hours later, I got a call from Lauren. She said, have you seen your Twitter account? I said, no. She said, well, look at it. You know, and it started, it just went viral. You know, then it took off. The coaches were doing a great job. Like I coached at a small college in Montana, and they took a picture of all the boxes that they were going to send, and then they sent out a challenge to all the schools at their conference. I graduated from UNC Pembroke, and they did the same thing. And then, you know, it just became a phenomenon more than anything else. And but you know, I didn't get overwhelmed by that amount. I was more overwhelmed by the human spirit, but just how good these guys were, because they wanted to help. They just didn't know how. You know, when we watch a natural disaster, usually your avenue is Red Cross or United Way or something national. So you go on a website, you look it up, but here they actually had something they could touch, which was our address at the Guy V. Lewis Development Center. And so, but it was just heartwarming. there was a time there about Tuesday or Wednesday as it was building that I got emotional, and you just start thinking about all the people that need the help. And it's not just this week or next week. I mean, a lot of the stuff we're going to have to keep stored as we go along, because 6 months from now they're still going to need it. But we've expanded our reach. We're also now working with release agencies in Rockport, Corpus Christi, Port Arthur, Beaumont. You know, people here, Houston. It's more than just Houston that got affected. It's all over this part of Texas. But you know, coaches are like good neighbors. You know, when you're a neighbor, you first move into a neighborhood. You know, I know my wife always made cookies and took it to somebody. You know, if you're baking a cake and you don't have an egg, you go next door and they knock on your neighbor's door, right? They give you an egg. I mean, that's what neighbors do. You know, and I've referred back to the thing that happened in Charlottesville that became a divisive topic. But you know, it's an isolated thing. You know, that's got undercurrents. But this is more indicative of the spirit of Americans, what we have going here. You know, J.J. Watt's deal is so much bigger and more important, I understand, than this. You know, I look at what he's doing, raising $17 million in county, right? How about that? That's heartwarming, you know, and the response we've gotten to our T-shirt and shoe initiative. But the bottom line, the only thing that matters in this whole deal is that we're going to be able to help a lot of people.
And the numbers that you guys sent out updated, I think it was about 1,400 commitments. Are you still on that target? We talked about Saturday, about 100,000 T-shirts, maybe?
More than that. More than that.
What are you thinking you're going to get?
I don't know. I was hoping for a couple hundred pair of shoes and, you know, maybe 1,000 T-shirts. Now, I heard Lauren keeps track of this stuff, and she's the one that's coordinating all this. But we're anticipating north of 125,000 T-shirts and somewhere around 20,000 pair of shoes. But guys aren't sitting in 10 pair of shoes, you know. You know, I don't want to leave anybody out, so I'm not going to call coaches names, but we've had coaches that aren't just sending shoes. I sent another tweet out that you know, we don't need any more shoes or T-shirts. Well, what I'm challenging people to do is send $10 to the Red Cross. You know, send $20 to Mayor Turner's Hurricane Harbor Relief Fund. You know, that's they need money too. You know, I had an IT company that said, "Coach, we're not in the shoe or T-shirt business, but we have hundreds of portable phone chargers. Can you use that?" Heck yes, send them over here. We'll get them out. You know, we've gotten a lot of stuff. I had a former manager of mine at Oklahoma that lives in Charlotte that sent $500 worth of diapers. You know, we have another. You know, it became a kind of a lightning bolt where, hey, you know, we want to send something, let's send it to that address. We know that it'll get there. But, you know, Hunter Yurchek, our athletic director, has been a stud. You know, he's given us access to the great hall in this room, which is going to use as our headquarters. But he's also given us the use of the football team's equipment truck, 18-wheeler. So we can put stuff on that truck and get it right to Beaumont, right to Port Arthur, out to North Texas, down west, that New Territory area. There's, you know, we're working with churches. We can't work with schools because of NCAA rules. You know, we wanted to send stuff to HISD, but we can't do that. So we have to make a right turn on that one. But we've got a lot of people that we can help, and that's good. That's a good thing.
What's been the most surprising part about this whole experience?
I think the this, you know, when you're sitting at your kitchen table at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock on a Monday afternoon writing a tweet out, the last thing you think is, you know, you didn't anticipate any of this. You're just trying to help that lady with her son, first day of school. You know, we've all been first graders, and most of us have been fortunate enough that first day of school, you get a new pair of shoes, right? Or you get new clothes. Your mother goes out and gets your clothes to start the school year. Well, it's just started, you think about all those kids on that first day of school that lost everything, and that's being able to come up with something in a small way to help. And I think the surprising thing is how many people now that we're going to be able to help. But I just want to send out a thank you to not just college basketball coaches, but that lacrosse coach, the high school women's lacrosse team in Pennsylvania, the high school boys basketball team in Newburgh, Massachusetts, don't even have a high school coach. The kids get together and they only had 30 t-shirts and they send us 20. And stories like that, I mean, it just gives you a little bit of faith in mankind. Those are good stories, man. And you don't want to have a catastrophe or something that happened here to bring it out, but at the same time, it brought it out. And that says a lot about Americans, I think.
Coach, what were those numbers you were saying about number of t-shirts and stuff again?
These are projections.
Yeah.
We had projected, I think, 20,000 or 50,000. Now it's north of 125,000 t-shirts.
And how many shoes?
Shoes is going to be north of 20,000 pair. There's some schools that are sending 50 pair. I was on the conference call with Nike. He just called me out of the blue, and they have shoes from the Final Four. I think the 4 schools that were in the Final Four last year, they had 100 shoes they were going to send to the schools that were in the Final Four. They're sending those to us now. Under Armour. I got a call from one of the great players in the history of the University of North Carolina, Charlie Scott, whose son works for Under Armour, and he was telling me what his son was going to do. But this is it's taken off, and it's spawned a lot of things. And I know there's a lot of other sports that are doing it also. Stacey Lewis, I thought that was incredible what she did yesterday, donating her check to Hurricane Harbor Relief Fund. How about she won the thing? So there's been a lot of great stories, but we have a long way to go. This is not it's going to get fixed in a year. Who knows? Next week there's going to be something in the national news that's going to divert people's attention away from us. But we're still here. We're going to work this thing. We started school on the 21st, and our kids have only been in school 4 days. But we've got 20 sports teams here, 10 men and 10 women, and each head coach has volunteered their teams to help us unload these boxes and fold these t-shirts and get them sized. They can get them reboxed and put them on the truck and get them to the relief agencies.
What do you feel like your long-term goal for this whole thing to come out? Like, do you feel like in the future now you'll have a way to do more of this? Like, if it's not just in this area, but in the other areas, if somebody's affected like that, do you feel like maybe you started something here, not just for this? Obviously, this is a big thing, but do you feel like you started something here that's bigger than what it is right now, that will continue on into the future?
I hadn't thought about that, but John Calipari called me yesterday, actually called me Saturday night, when they had a telethon at University of Kentucky, and then he had me call into it, and I think they raised over $1 million in their telethon. So I think there's a lot of things like that that's going to go on. That was going on before this. It's not like I don't know that I've come up with anything original, but we're going to have another disaster somewhere in this country, unfortunately, and people have an idea now that there's a lot of ways to give. A lot of people can't send money. I get that, but they can send what they have, and that's a good thing. It makes people feel good to give. You feel good about yourself when you're helping others. And one of the first things as a coach, you teach the young men that you have come into your program the difference in being givers and takers. This world's built around people to give. The takers don't go very far.
Anybody else?
How has your team, if at all, been impacted by this storm?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't know we were gonna have boxes, you know, we've been on the phone, I've been on the phone with more government agencies in the last, week that I never thought I would be talking to, federal agencies. Like I found out there was an embargo on mail coming into Houston. So I knew that that was gonna push the mail service, back. There's no mail service at the University of Houston's, main mail distribution area because schools have been canceled. If school's out, then the mail doesn't run. And so we've been on the phone trying to be proactive with all these boxes, thinking we could go down to a central mail service, and whether it's at the airport with UPS and FedEx or regular mail delivery. But there's, I think we've had 35 boxes or so. I sent out a tweet to our team, a mass text on Saturday, and said, you guys that are in town, that can come up to the Alumni Center. What time is that, Jeff? About 1 o'clock or so. And I was doing something when I got, Lauren was the one that called me and said, we got 35 boxes, we need you to get up here and help. That's your kids for you. Boss didn't tell you what to do. So I sent a text out to the Calvary. And then when I walk up here, we had, I think, 10 of our team members. Not only that, our coaching staff. You know, John Houston, our trainer, who had to evacuate his house got flooded. He and his wife were here. Our new strength coach, Alan Bishop, his wife and 2 kids were here. Kellen and his wife and new baby were here. So our program is very much like a family. You know, when we need help, everybody responds.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, guys.
Appreciate your time, sir.